Hi, guys, and welcome back to another edition of Meet the Staff. Today, we have someone who's worked with us within the last 6 months, so they're fairly new, and we're going to introduce them, ask some questions like we have with the others. And so right now, I'm just going to talk and tell you guys kind of my experience with them and how exactly we met. The pagan community here is very broad. And so it allows you to meet a variety of different people. And she had actually came to one of our events, and that's how I came to know her. She brought some delicious chicken. It was amazing. Mwah. And, she was in college for a while, doing her thing, getting her education and all that fun stuff. So when she got out, she was free to do things. So therefore she came and she joined us over here at the Devine Witch group. So without further ado, if you would, my dear, will you go ahead and introduce yourself, any pronouns that you wish to be known as during the live, and for anybody who sees you at future events as well.
I like to go by Calleigh, or Calleigh for short. They, them, her, she, preferably they, them.
Okay.
But I'll answer to bitch too, so,
Don't we all? It's kind of like our mantra over here. We're the witch bitches, so to speak. Okay, so with that being said, I've talked to you as well as other staff about, doing these questions, kind of introducing everybody. So let's start with the simple one. What path do you follow?
So I have recently started developing my own tradition. I'm an eclectic techno witch, as I call myself. My Book of Shadows is digital. Have Book of Shadows will travel. As long as you have Wi-Fi, I'm there.
Sweet. Have you ever set up like the virtual altars? Because I know that there's some spaces that actually do that, but I've never done it myself.
I have not actually set up a virtual altar. I still like my physical altar. But in my effort to save the environment, my Book of Shadows is completely digital. I use no paper.
Okay. And how do you like to do that? Since, we're kind of learning about your path and things like that. Do you like to use just a regular Word document, or is there a certain app that you use?
I'm using Google Drive, so that it syncs across all my devices. I can access it from any device that I have that syncs to my Google Drive.
Amazing. So, you said technical witch, and we did the part with your Book of Shadows, but what also does that entail? Like, what kind of parts make you eclectic? Like, is it just a mixture of different paths? And if so, what are those paths?
I tend to do a lot of Norse lean. It's a little Celtic blend in there as well. More so, it's just a bit of this and that. Kind of. I started out very much a solitary witch, and so I didn't have anybody to teach me. So it was like if I found something that resonated with me, I kind of latched onto it and said, "This is mine now."
Right. Like that's how it was for me as well, because like in the 90s, you could hardly find anybody unless you were using Witchbox, and then that was the time of dial-up and all that. So it made it hard, and resources such as libraries and certain bookstores weren't carrying that type of book. So that's one of the things that kind of made it difficult. So
Yeah.
we know kind of what the path that you're on. So how does it differ, and what brought you to the path? Like, how long have you been practicing, so to speak?
I've been practicing since middle school. I came to the path at a time in my life when I was searching for something more in the spiritual aspect of my life. We didn't grow up in the church. We were Irish Protestant.
Okay.
We believed that there was a God. He loved us, and we didn't need to go to a church to worship that God. But we also didn't read from the Bible night or anything like that. There was nothing.
Right. There was like belief, but nothing to like go out like ritualistically, so to speak.
There was nothing spiritual about it. It was just, there's a God.
Right.
He
So
had a son who died for your sins, and that was pretty much as far as it went.
So like what first introduced you? Do you remember like the first time that you're like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Because we all have that moment in our mind. Some of us it's movies or someone we met or somewhere in between.
Honestly, I started looking at the Native American spirituality because I was obsessed with Pocahontas as a kid. Like,
At least it's honest, right? That song with the wind always got little girls.
I was obsessed with Pocahontas and the whole respecting of nature. So when I found paganism and Wicca and the whole nature aspect of that kind of spirituality, I was like, I am complete. This is it. This is me. And I've kind of been just on that path ever since.
But one of the things that we have talked about with previous interviews is, there's the Wiccan Rede, there's difference in moralities, because most people think paganism, oh, they care about earth, which some do, but some don't. So, like, what do you feel was mind blowing for you, when you came into the pagan community, like either differences or whatever it may be?
Um, what was the question again? Just
Oh, you're fine. It was elongated, so that's my fault. But the question is like, how do you think the ideal paganism versus what you've actually seen within the community? You know what I mean?
okay.
As far as morality, having the baseline, how it differs, what you've seen personally.
Well, as I believe that there's no one path to deity. I believe that there's no one way to get to the spiritual, what you see as the higher power in the world. So I don't see a problem with differences between what one person believes and what another person believes. So I can't fault somebody on their path because it's different from mine.
Right.
Raven Gramassi has a great story about it in Spirit of the Witch, where he talks about how he used to sit all his students around this large misshapen crystal and used to make them argue over how their perspective of the crystal was the one right perspective of this crystal, and how stupid it was because they all had just this one perspective of the crystal, and that the whole of it was the one truth, not just that one little piece that you could see.
See, I love that. And also it gives me another author to look at and play with, because I've been kind of doing a lot of reading lately and deep diving, not really in like a path, so to speak, but just whatever calls to me. So I really do love that. And it is kind of true with, how we are. We're different, but I think media puts us out there like, oh, it's either dark or it's really fluffy. There's no in between, which I like to say I'm more of a balance between the two, kind of like Earth. So with that being said, like, how do you find time to practice your spirituality or to dedicate to learn to it? Because a lot of people that I encounter, they're like, I can't find the time. There's so much going on. And I always use the excuse of like, well, if you can find time to go to the movies, you can find a little bit of time for your spiritual path. So like, how does that work for you?
So I try to make time in the morning to do a morning devotion, and I try to make time at night to do a nightly devotion. Now, I don't always do that because life happens,
Right on.
but I also try to do each of the Sabbats. If I remember, I try to do the full moons, but sometimes I forget. I'm human.
Like everybody's like, oh, moon phases and this moon's coming up. And I'm like, oh crap. Candle.
Are you sure?
Right
Are
now.
are you sure about that? Is it really coming up? Because I'm pretty sure we just had a moon phase.
Right? Or the retrogrades and keeping up with all of that. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's in like a cusp? Like, okay. But yeah, I love that, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is just to kind of showcase the different personalities, the different perspectives and the similarities. So with that being said, how do you feel your path has helped your life? As far as like, in those hard times and those good times for a moral compass? If so, like, how would you define that for you and your path?
It's really helped me in terms of when it comes to passing of loved ones. I don't struggle as hard with grief because I'm comforted with that knowledge that they'll be reborn, that in some way or another, I will see them again. I will experience the relationship that I had with them again. That it's not permanent. Death is not a permanent thing. And so it's like recently my great aunt just passed away, and my grieving period wasn't as long as it has been for or was for my family members. You know, they grieved a lot longer than I did, but I was like, I'm sad that she's gone, but all must die to be reborn.
Right. So that's one thing that I hear a lot too in the community. I know with myself, I've had a lot of death, which, death, rebirth, the whole nine yards. And, we all look for answers like what's the afterlife like and things like that. And I know from most of what you hear from a Christianity aspect, there's either up or down. There's no in between. And I think that's one thing that draws people in with spirituality is it gives more answers to things and leaves it open instead of one way or the other. So how long have you been active in the pagan community here in Ohio, or, if you've traveled within your life?
So I've tried to be active, but where I grew up, there wasn't a hugely active community that I could find. If there was, they were very secretive. So I moved down here and I attended some group rituals for a while, and then they kind of died out. So I was solitary for a while, and then I started getting involved with the Devine Witch, and I've been getting more active in the community again, which has been very nice.
So with the pagan community, since the resurgence of being more active, what do you like about it, and what do you think that we could work on as a community?
Well, see, I'm very introverted, so I'm very introverted, so I think finding ways to help bring out the introverted people would be something that we need to work on, because a lot of times I'm like raring to go to events, but then I get petrified because I know there's going to be a lot of people there.
Right, anxiety and things like that.
Yeah. And I don't have any good suggestions on how to fix that.
Like, people ask me all the time, how do you do events? How do you get on screen? Like, me and you had a conversation like, oh my God, we're going to be on camera. And, like, there's still fear. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm still like,
Yes, I'm shaking like a leaf in the wind right now, but
like, people are looking at me and I'm like, stop looking at me, but you have to look at me because I'm the one putting it on. And it's a very odd feeling. It's like being in your body, but out of your body at the same time. So I'm going to put that out there right now. If you ever come to any of our events, we are just as scared as you are for a certain extent. But with that being said, what advice do you feel like you would have liked to have got when you were starting your path, or something that you feel like over time that you've learned that you wish you could impart on others? What would it be?
I have two pieces of advice. You don't have to be perfect. You can make mistakes. It's fine. You can knock over a candle and have a laugh. It's okay. Nobody's going to be upset about this. You don't have to buy the most expensive things. You can use a butter knife for if you can't get a black handled athame, you can use a butter knife. It's fine.
I know I've seen people's hair go up during rituals and at all. Like, rituals to me, when it's in a group setting, it never goes the way it's supposed to. Like, it sounds great on paper, but when you get out there, there's elements that you can't account for. And it's just like, at that point, you just got to kind of live in the moment and really enjoy it. So, being in the community, what are some shops that you feel share the same values as you do, or the same values as the Devine Witch? Like, where do you like to go? What makes you feel comfortable?
I honestly have not been to any of the shops in the area. I don't go shopping. I'm
Well, where do you
terrible.
like to shop? Do you like, if you go to an event, do you like to support local? How do you acquire your
When
own?
when I go to an event, I do like to shop local. When I need something, I've actually been using Etsy a lot, just because I love delivery. Being a socially awkward, a socially anxious introvert, I don't like to leave the house unless I absolutely have to.
You know, Etsy shops that you would recommend? Because, even when you're not just introverted, we had COVID, you sometimes you couldn't go out to the store to get what you wanted. So like,
hold on, let me bring up my app because I found this really wonderful if you're into furs. I have this really wonderful shop that I like to get rabbit fur from. They're cheap. They trap the fur, they eat the meat, and then they sell the fur.
okay, so it's very ethical in the way they do it. They're using all parts. Okay.
Yes, and they're in, I believe, Indiana. Sanctuary Traders Company.
You're gonna have to send me the link because I'm interested.
Oh, they're in Illinois. They're in Frankfort, Illinois. And then there is a company in Douglasville called Hands and Fire. They make these really cool standing incense burners. So you put the stick and it stands up straight, and then it collects the ashes around it.
So have you bought any from them? Like,
yes. One second.
I love how like when it blurs, this is just for you subscribers, where it just kind of goes back in the back. Oh, she's coming back into focus. Oh, look at that. That is cute.
So let me put my hand here.
So do they have like different designs, like as far as like?
So they have different colors. So this is a black one. I have a white one, and I have a turquoise one.
Ooh, I like turquoise. That's a pretty color.
It's very pretty, actually. The turquoise one is very pretty. I'm
going to get pictures after this video.
I will send all the pictures. And then what was, let me go into my purchases. There was a place that I got some herbs from that I really liked. Why are you not letting me see the herb company? Dang it.
Well, worst comes to worst. If we can't find them, we can always link them. Because anyone that you recommended, I will have you send me their link. So that way, we can do shout outs in the description towards them and everything else.
And there's another shop I haven't purchased from yet called Shop of Enchantments that has these really cool garden flags that have like for each of the holidays. Like Yule blessings and things like that I haven't purchased them yet, but they're like $20 a piece.
Like when it comes to like pagan decor, you get a lot of the same things like gargoyles or little angels or your statues. Like, but what about the cutesy shit? You know what I'm talking about? Like if somebody wants to live their best pagan cottage life,
So this is an altar cloth that I bought from Shop of Enchantments.
Ooh. Oh, the blurring motion is blurring it.
Oh no. Oh no.
I do see the design though.
Yeah, it's a triple moon with a pentacle, and it's very ivy covered.
That is very pretty. I like that.
But as I said, I've been using Etsy to find stuff. Because I've talked to some people who have gone to some of the shops and they're just like, eh.
Right. I think it just depends on the experience of the person, the energy that day. Sometimes things are good, sometimes things are bad. And it also depends, like if a lot of shops, they will carry the same thing. Maybe it'll change slightly from the company. Sometimes you'll find that one item that only they sell. And that's kind of what makes it like a treasure hunt, but also kind of like figuring out where the vibe is. Like I know a lot of people love to go to the House of Ravenwood in Yellow Springs. Some like to go to Coexist and things like that. Like as far as shops go. Now me, I'm kind of like you. I love things being delivered. So, I love to order things online. Sometimes I go to the mighty evil Amazon, but the devil's in the shipping, so to speak, because I'm impatient sometimes. So I'm like, I need it now. But I do try my best to support locally, or at least handmade items, because sometimes you can't get the things you want that are mass produced. And that's
Yeah.
things I love. Like there's Maria's Crafts here in town. She does embroidery work on different things and shows different crafters. And I'm actually going to get her to get us a tablecloth for our Witch in the Woods. So that way, when we do our ritual for Witch in the Woods every year, it'll be the same tablecloth with design that we choose eventually. That's going to happen. So, we kind of stepped into the topic of how you got involved with the Devine Witch. So if you want to talk about that a little bit more, you're more than welcome.
So part of my faith calls me into service. So when you were like, hey, can you help out? I'm like, yes.
You do not know how much you've been a blessing to me and how much I'm like, I love this girl because she's helping me out. Like, you know me, I'm a squirrel. I missed my own meeting once.
Yeah.
Purple. But like, it's nice to have other people that I can be like, hey, thank you. Thank you for helping me. And I do appreciate it, even though sometimes
I may not talk much in the meetings, but I'm sitting back there taking all the notes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I've had people be like, she doesn't say much. I'm like, trust me, she says a lot. You just got to watch the face and her type. I'm like, she's doing all the crazy stuff. Because when it comes to meeting minutes, you're fucking on it like that. And I'm like, I got whiplash. How quick you send it? I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I'm sitting there through the whole meeting, like taking down all the notes, and then I send them afterwards.
You're like our little Obi-Wan Kenobi. You give me hope. And I appreciate it. All right, my dear. I think that's all that I need for this. And I know you're going to be at the May Day event, right?
Yes, I'm bringing my baby witch friend Justine.
I'm so excited for that event. I don't know if you are, but for anybody out there who wants to know about it, have the link down in the below. It's May 7th here in Ohio. And thank you so much, my dear, for helping me and dealing with my squirreliness and being part of it. Love you, my dear, and blessed be.
Blessed.